There've been talks. I don't know. So
Kid's
like,
been itching.
would it just be like agreeing to terms or something, and then go through at the end of the season, or
Well,
what?
like here's the thing. Like the playoff teams are focusing on the playoffs, so it's kind of like an unfair advantage for
That's
six
what I was
to
thinking.
be able to talk while others are still playing. So I would say nothing really even remotely like set in stone. Like if you want to throw a name out there, like sure, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not like
right.
the season ends and then all of a sudden a trade is coming through.
Okay.
God, I don't know what to do with my lineup. Like
You're
I
gonna start
have
Amari
to
Cooper
start
this
Amari.
time?
I have to. It's like Spencer Ware and Damian Williams kind of feel like they're going to be sharing the duties primarily, and like I can't keep Amari on the bench. Like I don't know when this is going to happen. Like 2 times in 3 weeks that he has over 180 multiple touchdowns.
So I was thinking about since I was doing this or did the schedule, and then I was thinking about the expansion and how the schedule would work then. And I was like, well, if you kept it like it is and just added 2 teams, you'd have to like rotate on teams. You'd either not play every team each year, or you wouldn't play each year division like twice. You'd have to like do one of the two. So now I was thinking like you could have 3 divisions, and you could play each of the other 3 teams twice, and then each other team once.
Well, wouldn't the expansion team just slot in where you would play one non-conference guy 2 times? Because you play one non-conference opponent twice each year.
Yeah, but if you we're
once.
playing another conference team twice, that's 2 games you have to get rid of.
Oh, that's okay. That's true.
So then you're either like rotating on who you don't play, or you're not play, or you just don't play all your conference teams twice. But then you have to rotate that too. Then you have to rotate like which non-conference you haven't played in like a year, and it sounds like
a lot. I mean, I would definitely want to keep each conference opponent twice and then probably rotate the other ones, but it sounds like a mess.
I have no idea why I look like a ghost right now.
Yeah, this is
like I have the same setup each week, and it's usually not ideal, but it's worse this week.
What's going on with that?
I don't know. I'm gonna try putting those lights back on.
Classic fucking Frasier. Being a phantom.
Charlie. So then I was thinking about that, and then I was like, well, we still have 4 playoff teams, or we go to 6? Because if you go to 6, then you have to like not have a 14-week regular season.
Yep.
It's actually kind of a nightmare.
It sounds awful. Like,
so my best case scenario with keeping it all the same, I thought of was just 3 divisions, 3 division winners in, 1 wild card. Just make it super hard to get in the playoffs.
God.
That's the best way I could think of where you can keep the 14-week regular season and the 2-round playoff and play everybody each year. And play your division people twice.
Dude, it sounds like living hell. I have never been more against this idea than after what I just heard.
I just squashed expansion in 30 seconds.
It's fucking over.
Hey, I don't hate the 3 division. Play your division twice. Because then, like on top of it, Well, so you'd play 8 non-conference and then 6 division. You could completely split it up evenly. Like all of your division games would just be your last games. It sounds kind of wild, actually.
Like that part isn't bad. It's the fact that you'd have 4 teams in a 12-team league. And you would be reliant basically on winning your conference. So like if you're in a very difficult conference at a given point, it's just going to be like living hell to try to get into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Like if all of a sudden the Pac-5 is like Dave, you, Tim, and Josh.
How would you divide them up? That'd
How do
be
you even get in? Dude, low key, after these last 2 weeks, Josh's playoff resume is looking pretty gross.
Yeah. Here, I just thought of this too. But if you had it like that, if there is one strong division, like, and you don't play like anyone from your division for 8 weeks, like you guys all play that 8-team schedule, and then basically you have like a 6-game season against yourselves to decide who represents. But I guess that still doesn't solve another good team not making it.
Dude, fuck it. 10 teams forever. Nice little setup.
Let's just have a 1 through 12 playoff. March Madness now.
We should.
Oh God. Just completely get rid of the regular season.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be playing to not play the best team in the end. That would be it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, it's cold in here now. Damn it. All right. Well, let's fucking do this. Classic Calvin getting to 7 wins after all of it.
Incredible.
Jesus.
Yeah. Death, taxes, Calvin 7 and 7. Bull Ryan.
All right. Oh, it's weird. I don't have to like lean into the mic today. Sitting here normally.
Weird. It looks weird.
He's like a pilot. I can't laugh hard because my fucking diaphragm is sore from puking.
Yeah, forgot about that.
Talk about intense. What an intense night. All right. Welcome, everybody. It is the Week 14 Web.com podcast, the last one of the regular season. How's it going, guys?
Great.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm sorry to mostly Brock. Caleb, you don't really matter. But we have our 4 teams set. I already knew 2 of them a couple weeks ago, but the wild cards are locked down. And in the end, after this grind of a season, it is going to be Mingo and Tim. Tim is in the playoffs for the first time since the first year of Web.
I didn't even
count. 2013 doesn't count.
I didn't even realize he went to the championship game in 2013. So I looked back at it.
Yeah, that was.
You guys said he was like the historically bad team, like in one of the first couple years.
The next year.
Yeah, that's why I was confused. I went back and this. I'm really like, what? How did he make the championship game?
Yeah, that was the birth of the Dan Tim rivalry, and then Dan just stomped them. Wasn't that like an extreme blowout championship game too?
Yeah, Dan scored 200 points.
Dan stomped him, and Tim traded his entire team.
Dan got in Tim's head so far in that game that it ruined an season for him. But he came back the next year then.
And also built his team he has now.
Yeah.
like I want to see I'm looking quick who is on that team because I'm just very interested to see what
Tim's 2014 team, the bad one.
the championship team. He
Oh.
had Vincent Jackson,
Calvin
Reggie
Johnson.
Bush, Alex Smith, Frank Gore, Eric Decker, Kelvin Johnson, Danny Woodhead, Zach
I
Ertz.
mean, that 2013, that's not bad.
Classic 2013 Vincent Jackson. You can't
Vincent-
sleep on that kid.
Forgot about
Jackson. Frank Gore is still good. Eric Decker. That was Eric Decker's like first good year.
Yeah, that was before Zach Ertz was like what he is today. Which
Yeah,
is
that
crazy.
is
I can't believe Zach Ertz was like around then.
Yeah,
right.
All these big short players, and then there's just Zach Ertz, who's in his prime in the NFL right now.
Zach Ertz was so like not that good for so long.
Mhm.
Like he just came out like last year basically.
Yeah,
His first like
Pretty much.
actual good year. He's always like that guy like, oh, this guy could be good, but he's not.
Yeah, freaking tight ends. Like, how many times do you see guys just like simmering and then all of a sudden they explode? Except for George Kittle, of course.
Kittle.
Already the greatest tight end in NFL history. Oh my God.
Factory.
Well, that pretty much puts it into perspective where Tim was last time he made the playoffs, starting guys like Eric Decker. But yeah, this year, a different story finally gets the monkey off the back. So let's just dive right in to our week 14 so we can talk about some playoff predictions for a little while.
Woo!
Woo!
So, game of the week, no surprise. Didn't even post a poll. It was me and Dan. Playoff spot on the line, sort of. Dan needed some things to go right, and ultimately they didn't go right. So, even despite losing, the result would have been the same.
Me and Tim actually, before this week, we actually put aside our differences and mutually agreed to cheer for both of us to win and Dan to win and none of you to make it.
Classic.
Mm-hmm. And it almost worked.
Absolutely classic. You're an asshole. Yeah, so 209 points from the moneymakers this week, and we are going into the postseason as hot as any team in the league, hotter than any team in the league. 3-game winning streak, averaging, let's see, it's 201 points in the last week. So there's a danger in these kind of teams that go in scorching hot because we've seen these teams kind of fall face first in the first round. Dan, it just comes to mind a couple times. Sorry, Dan. What do you guys think?
There must have been some sort of team response to your podcast rant because I feel like since then it's just been scorching hot. Going into the playoffs, 200-point games go lower. I don't know why I ever thought this should have been a coin flip because Corf's team is on another level right now, despite losing his best running back. 200-point game, and it was the kind of 200-point game where I'm like looking at it, and I only see Juju over 20, and I'm like, well, how the hell is he 200 points?
Just everyone contributed. Literally everyone. That entire offense was
50.
Yeah. Entire offense 13 plus points, and then the defense even had a really good week. So just an all around great effort from Mingo when he needed it. Turned out good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think like Amari Cooper's 40 points are just sitting on the bench, and I'm like, I could add the second highest score ever or third high, whatever. But it doesn't really matter. But now I got to put him in the lineup, so he'll probably get like 40 yards next week, and Spencer Ware will have 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, keep in mind that it is still Dak Prescott throwing to him.
God.
I know. That's the craziest part. That's why he did what he did on Thanksgiving, and I was like, I'm not going to start him. And he had, a fumble and 70 yards, but I don't know, man. He's on fire right now. I got to ride with him, I think, but yeah, I mean, I'm obviously feeling very good about where the team is right now. I'm like first round matchup. Josh is kind of struggling right now. We'll talk about that. But yep, I get 174.1, highest scoring team in the league. Didn't take the highest WIB. Dan held on to that. Had a 6 WIB this week in defeat. But yeah, let's talk about Dan, because this was a team that held that scoring lead for 13 weeks. And obviously was very frustrated. We had him on last week to talk about it. Falls to 6-8, misses the playoffs for the first time in his web career, also below 500 for the first time in his web career. What do we think for this team as we move into the offseason and going into next year? Is there a reason that he would need to maybe rethink what's happening? Because the offense has very much struggled in these last 4 or 5 weeks. I think he's 1-4 over that stretch.
Yeah. I'm going to make a bold prediction right now. Dan is going to be my number 1 team in my power rankings going into next year.
Wow.
Despite this, I think there's just some circumstances. The Le'Veon Bell thing kind of
that's the big thing.
Hovered over his season the whole year. He was doing well despite it. For most of the year, the AJ Green thing kind of messed with his team's consistency down the stretch here. Taking that wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 on his team, actually. Tyreek Hill's the wide receiver 1. Out of the lineup kind of hurt him. He had to slot in Adam Humphries. Hoping he can see maybe a step forward from David Njoku, who I think is one of the most talented tight ends. And next year he's going to be starting Alvin Kamara, Le'Veon Bell, Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, AJ Green. Yeah, I'm not worried if I'm this team. I think it's just one of those years. He was bound for it. He's never missed the playoffs. It was due to happen eventually.
And he'll be adding a top 4 pick most likely, unless he trades it. So that's a pretty big deal. This defense, like Tremaine Edmonds and Roquan Smith, have really been on a roll. So that's nice too. Anchors now for the defense, even Jalen Smith. So I think the defense will probably get back on track. He's got a bunch of thirds, so he can even improve on it more so.
Here's the thing with these thirds. This is going to be one of the most interesting things to see with what someone does with assets. He's not going to be able to keep all those thirds.
How is the value going to be for those? Because people know he's not going to be able to use them.
People know he's in a tough spot. Like, he might have gotten himself in too tough of a spot here.
That'll be interesting. I don't think we've ever seen that before, where you have so many picks that it actually hurts the value of it.
You could have to forfeit picks.
That would be wild.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, though. Like, obviously, this is an extremely talented team. Getting the highest pick it's ever had in the draft at 4. Got some guys coming back. Le'Veon obviously had some injuries down the stretch here, too. But yeah, no, this is one of the most unfortunate seasons probably ever, if not the most unfortunate. And I mean, it sucks being 6-8 and missing the playoffs, but Dan's got a team that's going to be around for many years yet to come. So can take a little bit of comfort in that, but definitely sucks right now. All right, moving on. I want to talk about this game in the Pac-5. Josh and Frazier. Right, it's week 13. Sorry, Caleb and Frazier. We got 2 pod members here facing off. Frazier was a do-or-die game, had to win, and that obviously isn't all that needed to happen. You did win. You put up a great performance, and unfortunately, it was not quite enough with the 8 WIB 182. Tell us what you're thinking right now.
I was actually ended the weekend like way less upset than I anticipated myself being. I think my most upset week was the week after I lost to Tim. With not having great chances going in these last 3 weeks, my playoff chances on Stack Guy Josh's were always hovering around 20 to 30. I think I was able to slowly accept what my fate was eventually going to be. So I came into week 14. I did what I needed to do. Didn't get the help I needed. Team didn't put him myself in a position to control my own destiny. But I ended the weekend content with what the team did. Beat Caleb, put up a real nice solid point total. Just Tim and Mingo took care of business. Congrats to Tim. Finally solved his week 14 demons. I was hoping to keep those going one more year, but I guess you know what they say. In order to have a good rivalry, a true rivalry, the other team has to have some success every once in a while too. Right?
It's been the problem with Dan and Tim.
So yeah, this is a good day for the Dan, Tim, Fraser, Tim rivalries because Tim is now 2 steps away from maybe getting the belt.
Yeah, I mean, it's on one hand, obviously things needed to happen in order for Tim to get in. One of the biggest problems for him was the roadblock that was David Wilson Batman for the last 4 years, dominating the Pac-5. And, you know, another 8-6 season, a good year, you know, looks great. George Kittle is probably the #1 dynasty tight end heading into next season. And Julio Jones has another statement game to close the regular season here.
Yeah.
And adding the #2 overall pick is going to be a much needed infusion of some top end draft capital for your team. I think
because like Julio's going to be 30 next year, Antonio's going to be 31. Like all of a sudden, like obviously these guys are studs and they're still probably going to produce, but definitely could use that young talent. And really, the first thing that jumped out to me when I looked was 17 points from Mike Badgley. You know, came in.
It's unbelievable. You saved the Chargers.
Yeah. Kicker stream, baby. Guess what? I'm dropping them this week.
Actually,
don't need a kicker for 9 months.
I guess that's true. But yeah, you know, looking at this team, a lot of there's a lot of optimism going into next year. Probably make another chance at the playoff run. The running backs are a little weird, very weird after Gurley because like the Seahawks are the #1 rushing team in the league, but it's like Chris Carson, Penny, and Mike Davis are all sort of sharing the load. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes going forward. But otherwise, yeah.
17 carries, 16 carries, 13 carries, 22 carries for Chris Carson. That's sharing the load. Those are his last 4-week carries.
Those last 4. Yeah, I go. Yeah, I guess he's dominating the load, but I don't know how it's going to go into the next year, like a first-round pick. Is they going to actually start using Rashad Penny or not? But I don't know. Like, are you okay with your running back situation going into next season?
Oh, no, not at all.
That's what I was trying to get at. But
we'll see what happens with. I would assume that Rashad Penny would take a step forward, but you just never really know.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about at the beginning of the year. It was kind of a transition year where I needed some of these young receivers maybe to kind of step up. With Julio and Antonio getting a little bit long in the tooth. Receivers are like your Mike Williams or Josh Doxson. I was hoping for them to kind of take a step forward. Mike Williams, in what was basically his rookie year, I think had like 8 touchdowns or so. Something like that.
Yeah, around there.
And believe it or not, Josh Doxson was not terrible down the stretch here.
Really?
Yeah, he had... I mean, he wasn't getting touchdowns, but he was actually like putting up decently consistent yardage.
Okay. Well, that's good for you because those are like the 2 guys you're kind of hoping to like slowly step their way in as Antonio and Julio start to phase out. So
one of the wild cards too on this team is Josh Gordon because without what happened there, without him going to the Patriots, and not only that, but becoming very involved in that offense, like that was a huge thing for your team, like not having to rely on those young guys this season.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where that is next year if Josh Gordon is, still in the NFL first of all, and then playing for the Patriots in a big role. But yeah,
he'll be in the NFL.
Yeah, kind of like Dan, just an unfortunate year. you'll be back.
Yeah, honestly, for missing the playoffs, like there's a lot of things that I'm happy about. Obviously, it's really tough to be mad when George Kittle is just going off.
Yeah.
Josh Gordon, his year went about as good as I could have pictured it going. Julio is back to actually scoring touchdowns. And Antonio is still a top 3 wide receiver. So yeah, it was a weird year where I just had a few too many like 120 weeks and they kind of killed me.
Yeah. And I mean, this season overall was just kind of weird. Like, it was not really conducive to the good teams being able to show what they're made out of. A lot of weird, like, point things happening. Caleb, other side of this game though, 5-9 season, not bad. Made some pretty big trades, got this nice little core set up that we've talked about for the last 5 or 6 weeks. Obviously not a great week this week, but not really what you're looking at right now. How do you feel about your team heading into 2019?
Probably the most optimism I've had with a team going into a new season. Obviously, it's sort of like a whole new core. Like, once again, I was going back through the years and stuff, and it's like every year I have an entire new team. And at some point here, it's going to have to like settle down and like, find these guys. What?
You ever think you should stop trading so much?
You say that as I'm like already
have a new team every year.
It's literally what it is. And it's like guys I get, they underperform, and then I move on from them, and then I get someone else. I think we're finally starting to see like guys like DJ Moore and Corey Davis are hopefully going to be like really good moving forward. And then the running backs like Mixon is having almost a top 10 season, even with some injuries, and then Fournette, carry on if they stay healthy, and then the defense that was together this season. Yeah, I'm definitely excited for next season. There's going to be even more moves and stuff like coming up soon, maybe, and top 3 pick. So, yeah, definitely excited for next year to see what the team can do.
I would put so much money on you not making that 3rd pick.
Yeah.
Hey, let's just be clear though. No trades till the season's over, Caleb. Trading is not open. We are still past the trade deadline of 2018. So come on.
All right.
Settle down.
Okay.
All right. So another team that's going to be moving into 2019 with a little bit of a stale taste in its mouth is Parker, who faced off with Tim this week, interconference game of the week. Obviously, it was a win and in scenario for Tim, which he did win, we've already said. But let's talk about Parker for a second, because this is a team that traded its 1st-round pick. That is how Frazier is picking number 2. But got one back in the David Johnson trade, and honestly didn't really have that bad of a season. Was 4-10, but had a pretty good average points per game and WIB, and still a very dangerous group of players heading into next season. We kind of talked about this a couple weeks ago, I think, about what do we see for Parker's team. Do we still feel pretty good about this team heading forward into next season?
Yeah, I would put them at like a kind of a borderline playoff team. This has been the theme throughout the podcast years, because during Parker's losing streak was how do we feel about them going into next year, because the season's been over for a few weeks. And with these wide receivers, I don't think there's any reason to panic. Like, they're going to have you in a position where you can put up like a good week every week like he did this year. And I think you just got to kind of wait and see. Hopefully Nick Chubb takes that another step forward and to become a full-fledged RB1, maybe a superstar for him, stud. So you never know with that. Tariq Cohen had a nice little player. So it's kind of just a wait and see thing with these wide receivers. You never know when you're going to just have a magical hit on a few running back years for them. So I could easily see this team back in the playoffs next year.
Yeah, I think sorry, Caleb. I think the craziest thing about this 9-game losing streak that he's on is like this is one of the longest losing streaks ever in Webb. I think it might actually be tied for second or third. But you know, it's not a bad team. This is the unluckiest team in the league this season. 0.62 luck factor. A lot of things just didn't go right for him. We talked about how him and Carter kind of have a similar resume. This 7-win discrepancy in their records. So yeah, I mean, this is just kind of one of those things where you just have to shake it off and move on into next year. But
yeah, I don't know. This offense is pretty good. There may be some questions in terms of depth. Seeing if Derrick Henry, we wait and see what
talk about that.
Talk about that. That was unbelievable.
Derrick Henry finally showing maybe some life after 14 weeks.
Talk about just as I'm about to just fully just get a full-on roster boner to the Derrick Henry trade. He does this just as I was solidifying my second pick. Derrick Henry's just like, wait a minute, 48 points. Maybe you shouldn't have traded me.
Yeah.
Got him. He's like, wait, I am big and fast. I can just throw around with my arms and run 99 yards. It's fine.
Why haven't I just been throwing people this entire year?
Yeah, I mean, who knows what that means moving forward. I mean, this is, what was it, like the 4th best running back fantasy game ever or something?
Yeah.
It's just crazy, but I mean, who knows in terms of is this the start of this Chubb Henry combo that I think he was kind of envisioning?
Yeah, definitely.
Go.
And then even the defense sort of, I don't know where he ranked in scoring this season, but I know it hasn't been Mac's been hurt for a little bit and stuff, but it hasn't seemed to be a very overwhelming thing on the defense. So that might be something he's looking to improve on in the offseason as well.
Yeah, that's one of the bigger things. We've kind of touched on this throughout the year, but this was the 9th scoring defense in the league after being the top dog 2 years in a row. So there's points lost right there. And part of it was injuries, and part of it was just not seeing that same level of production he's gotten out of these superstar guys over the last couple of years. So
I was gonna touch on a little bit about how weird of a year overall it was for Parker, where you have, and this Derrick Henry game kind of just solidified it. Derrick Henry, you trade 2 picks from 2 first-rounders to start the year. He busts hard, and then all of a sudden is maybe not a bust. Last year, first-round pick who busted hard, all of a sudden is playing decent, and John Ross has got 6 touchdowns this year, low-key.
Yeah, he's been very efficient with his catches. He's probably 15 catches on the year, and half of them are touchdowns. So,
and looking at his starting lineup, talked about Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb kind of emerges out of what looked like a crowded backfield. And then you got Davante Adams, who just solidifies himself as one of the best wide receivers in the league this year. It's kind of a weird mix of just weirdness for Parker this year.
Yeah, and one of the things churning in the rumor mill right now is that Mike Evans may be on the market heading into the offseason. So something to watch. He's already traded David Johnson.
Yeah, people
trade his former favorite player. I mean, is that still a thing, or did that die?
Him or Nuke, probably. Or Devontae.
Devontae Adams is probably his favorite player.
All right. So Tim, obviously, we got to give Tim some credit. We've kind of been roasting him all year. He's voiced a little bit of displeasure with how he is represented on the podcast. But now is the time where we can finally celebrate his team, because finally not choked in the final week, and he is indeed taking this loaded roster into the postseason. I mean, this was a big week for Tim, a 7 WIB. He's going in feeling pretty good. That 134 week 12 is behind him, and he's got 2 in a row here now, averaging 168.1. Is Tim is Tim? What do we think about this? Is he a legitimate title contender this season?
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the 1 seed, so maybe him and Carter have a little bit of a tussle. But
yeah, this is a weird year. I feel like the 4 and 3 seeds are pretty overwhelming favorites right now.
yeah,
I'm going to continue the disrespect for Josh and Carter. We'll get to that later, I assume. But as far as Tim, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little uncomfortable when he doesn't choke. I don't know how to respond.
it's like unnatural.
Yeah. So like Odell goes down and it's looking like
crazy.
just that kind of thing. Tim has one of his classic fantasy football panic attacks. So Odell goes down. So I'm sitting here just like week 14 is just screwing over Tim again. And it's awesome. And goes into Sunday, and those 6 hours, he just went in, took care of business despite having to start Peyton Barber. Didn't really have to sweat out Parker all that much. There was maybe a little bit of a stretch late Sunday where Parker could have made a run, but overall it wasn't that close for him. So Tim takes care of week 14, makes the playoffs for the first time in 5 years. And yeah, going in as a favorite in his first round matchup. So Tim, congrats. I'm not gonna laugh at you.
Does that hurt to say?
Yeah, I can't wait for 2019.
But yeah, just to do what he did this week without Melvin and Odell, it's going to be a big deal if Melvin is back. He plays Thursday night, so that's kind of a big deal. And then Odell, I'm guessing he'll be back, but you never know. But even with them out, he's been able to produce. Leighton Vander Esch is having a real nice season, as is Corey Littleton. So he's got this nice little 1-2 punch at linebacker. And then Eric Ebron keeps scoring touchdowns. So yeah, this is right behind Mingo. I think this is the team that's gunning for the championship. Has the best odds of winning it, but maybe he got that monkey off his chest of finally coming up in a clutch moment, and he just steamrolls his way to the championship. Or he chokes again. So finally makes the playoffs, and a first round exit would be a tough look as well. But
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the difference for Tim this year, where you touched on those linebackers, was going a little bit beyond that, was actually piecing together a team that was more than his studs this year. You saw him these last 3 years relied big time on Zeke, on players like Odell and stuff like that. And you saw them let him down a few times the last couple of years with the Zeke suspension, the Odell injury. And he finally kind of pieced together a little bit more depth. Eric Ebron was a big pickup to start the year. Who saw that coming?
Jesus.
Obviously not Caleb.
Classic.
But yeah, and gets Leighton Vander Esch in the draft, kind of picks up Corey Littleton. It must have been out of nowhere because I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't even know where he came from.
It was added free agency September 12th. So
yeah, so he finally builds a little depth, builds a little bit of punch in areas other than his top 2 wide receivers and top running backs, and it pays off for him.
Yeah, I think we said at the beginning of the season, I think it was even the preseason podcast, where we said this was the best team that Tim had going into a season. He got these last few years, he kind of went in with a similar core of guys, but around them, this was probably the best complete team that he had. Makes moves like the Robert Woods trade ends up paying off pretty big for him, Ebron trade, and then kind of rounding out that defense. So I'm not surprised that this is the team that finally kind of arrived for him. It was once again a nail-biting scenario that he had to win a game to get in, but yeah, definitely a favorite in his first round matchup, despite going up against the 1 seed in Carter. And scary team. This could be your champion for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk that team that Tim will be playing next week. Carter facing off with Kelvin this week. Carter looking to continue this winning streak. Kid couldn't lose until he ran into a Kelvin trying to get to 7-7, and nobody stops that.
Yeah.
That is a train you don't want to get in front of, the 7-7 train of Kelvin.
Will not be
Yeah.
stopped. I should have known better. Why did I pick Carter?
I know. I didn't even realize Kelvin was 6-7. Like I
Yeah.
honestly wouldn't have been able to tell you that.
Like all the records, really, like all of a sudden Dan's like 6-8, and I'm like wondering what's going on here. Or was it? Yeah. So like, it was just a weird year, but Calvin getting back to 7-7, real nice to see.
Yeah, and I mean, like 157.7 was better than Carter, was better than Parker, better than Ash. Like this was a good team this season. I mean, not great, still scoring under the league average, but 4.3 WIB, and the WIB this season was kind of skewed by the fact that we had all these good teams because your highest WIB is 5.9. It's the first year we haven't had a WIB leader over 6 in a while, if ever. And Kelvin was just kind of one of those teams that was he got off to a rough start. The 1-4 start kind of set him back, but he honestly had a pretty good last 10 games of the season.
I'm checking his schedule quick, and this is a 7-7 team that had 2 separate 3-game losing streaks.
Wow.
So, other than those stretches, you're looking at 7-1.
Yeah, like in a nice little 4-game win streak in the middle there. Beat Dan and Carter in there. Only conference loss was to Kelvin this season. So, well, both of them were to Kelvin. So. Yeah, it's kind of an exciting team heading into next season. We've already kind of hit that towards the middle of the season when we started to get excited about a potential Kelvin run.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows what's going to happen with James Conner? That's definitely the wild card here. Le'Veon Bell, I'm assuming it's going to be long gone. Does Conner flourish in that lead back role again? We'll see.
Let's see why not.
I don't know. Yeah. That's weird. I hated Conner coming out of college, and I don't think I ever really watched him this year, so I can't really say much about it, but it's weird.
That's the thing with the running backs that don't really have like that background is you're kind of always skeptical that they're just going to stop.
Yeah, like your Jeremy Hills.
Yeah.
Type of player.
Zach Stacy, throw it back to 2013.
Yeah, and it's weird.
Even with that though, like this is a nice little offense. Like since he traded for Landry, he had a nice past couple weeks, 10 points, 21 points. So maybe he can emerge in that lineup. Calvin Ridley, Cooks, Engram maybe gets back to it next year. This is a good team. I think it's average as seen by the 7-7, but maybe James Conner getting back on track off the injury, and he'll push it to the next level next season. Yeah,
he's got a lot of like nice pieces, and then you have the superstar Saquon Barkley obviously in there too. But you're gonna need to see guys like Calvin Ridley taking a step forward, kind of getting a little bit more consistency there, and then obviously Conner having another big season, and who knows what. The tight end spots up in the air now. Greg might be done. I mean,
yeah, Greg also, that doesn't sound too good. I don't know what's going.
Yeah, what's he got behind him? Not much. Will Dissly.
Evan Engram.
Oh yeah, Will Dissly's been sitting on IR for a while. So there's the future.
Hall of Famer Will Dissly. People forget.
Forget about the first 2 weeks of the season when he was already getting inducted.
Yeah, but yeah, good tight end class this year. So maybe you see Calvin wet the beak a little bit on the tight end in the draft this year. We'll see.
Oh yeah. Carter then, obviously 11-3, still a phenomenal season. Didn't get to 12. It's fine. He won the Big 5. But the problem is ends the 6-game winning streak with a 131. which is his lowest total of the season.
Oh,
Not necessarily what you want to see for the biggest game of your franchise's career with Tim. Is this? Are we all of a sudden off this Carter can't lose train? Is this going to be a first round exit for the 1 seed?
Oh, it's possible he lost his magic. Things I would like to see, not Funchess in the starting lineup as a CV fan. I don't know what else he's got, but maybe a Sterling Shepard. I don't want to make any start-sit decisions, but yeah, the Magic, it was going. He stumbled week 14 in a meaningless game. We'll see. People have been doubting this team all year, and he kept winning, so I'm not gonna give up hope now.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, this is just kind of a shake it off thing. He won 11 games season. And a lot of that had to do with just kind of hitting teams at the right moments. And obviously, any team can do anything on a given week. So as long as he's up in that 160 range again next week, like he kind of has been all season, he's going to give himself a chance, just like he has. But yeah, definitely concerning. Not what you want to see your worst week heading into your playoff matchup.
And he made these trades in the middle of the season trying to like buff up the team. And David Johnson had a big week with like 30 one time, but the past 3 weeks it's been like 7, 7, 6. And he also traded for Demaryius Thomas, and he's he had a 2 touchdown game, but hasn't done much outside of that. So the midseason trades that were kind of like supposed to help him like solidify his team to what he thinks it would be, haven't exactly panned out at all for him. So that's kind of tough.
Yeah, I think the David Johnson regression here is definitely the biggest story, because he's going to need a big game out of David Johnson to win these playoff games. I don't think it's really a blurry line there. It's going to come down to, can he get the star power out of these guys specifically this guy that he traded for to solidify himself as the Big Five champion, pretty much. But we'll see. Other conference champ though this week, feeling even worse than Carter. Josh.
Yeah, we spent the whole year saying regression is coming, and then we finally like accept that these teams are good, and now all of a sudden they stumble going into the playoffs. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and Carter, this is a 1 week thing. Like, okay, shake it off, whatever. Josh, the last 2 weeks, both week lows. 113.5 is the lowest score overall this season.
Ooh. Really?
So, this is about as bad as you can stumble into the playoffs, especially going up against the 3 seed, who's now the #1 scoring team in the league and just coming off a 209-point game. I mean, I don't really know. This offense had a almost historically bad day. Was just outside the top 10 for worst offensive scores ever at 46.5.
Yeah, when I checked his score, with Josh's team, I checked the defense first, and it wasn't that bad. It was about probably where he usually is, and I'm like, well, how does he have 113 points? And then I take a gander at some of these offensive totals, and they look rough.
Yeah, and it's been a story all season that he's relied on the defense and the offense kind of weaker, but this isn't gonna. I don't think this is gonna happen again, where you see all of these receivers just do nothing. I mean, Galladay 5 yards, Godwin did nothing. I mean, these are guys that kind of were emerging for him, having these big games, but they all just seem to kind of lose it on the same week. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, from my What the
Sorry.
fuck was that?
Sorry, I cut out. I wanted to say, and sort of like with Carter, where he like made mid-season trades. Josh has helped out at first, but like James White has sort of tailed off in these past few games. Tyler
Yeah.
Boyd, past few games hasn't been scoring touchdowns, and like that kind of stuff is tough. Gronk wasn't in the starting lineup for some reason this
What was
week.
up with that?
I was very confused.
Vance
know.
McDonald over your big trade acquisition?
So a few question marks there
Just
with
trying to make sure Vance stays sharp.
yeah. You wanted to rest Gronk for a week going into the playoffs.
I mean, like, yeah, and that's like it doesn't matter. Like, you
Yeah.
know, the game didn't matter. That's kind of what I thought he did was just start all of his bench guys, but he didn't. I mean, he scored 48.5 points in offense. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But yeah, I mean, you got okay, silver linings here. The defense was not bad. It was actually good. Again, Darius Leonard 17 points. So he still has that. The offense has been a question mark all season. This type of offensive performance not going to happen again. But these lineup decisions talked about last week also coming back to haunt him again. Sitting Gronk, Rivers has a bad game. Lamar around 20 points again. I mean, you're gonna have to make some calls for this week 1 game and just kind of hope things go right. But
Yeah, one of the most excruciating things in web is going into the playoffs with start-sit decisions. I've been there, and it's not fun at all.
Yeah.
all right, last game of the week then. Or no, we didn't talk about Dave. And that was the last game of the week.
Yeah.
Okay. So Dave. Hey guys, did you know that I love Dave's core? You guys know that?
I didn't,
do.
but I also enjoy it. So
Can we talk about how this team was the number 4 scoring offensive team in web this season?
wow.
A team that has been bad, very, very bad for 3 years. It was the number 4 scoring offensive team. And the defense was 1 point per game off of his own historically bad pace. If he
Jesus.
just had
An
an
average.
extra 5 points per week on the defense, he wouldn't even be at average, but he wouldn't even need to be because he'd be at like 163 points a game.
It's unbelievable.
It's one of the. It might be the greatest mystery in web is how is Dave's defense so consistently bad? Like, because it's one of those things where you just expect to hit on it like once every other year and just have a decent defense, and Dave just can't. I don't know how to explain it. I
Yeah,
don't think he can explain it.
we talked about it last week where it's like, and he's making moves. He's clearly trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But this offseason is going to be crucial for him to figure it out because he legitimately has a team heading into next season that could compete. With this offense, with these guys, another year under some of these guys' belt, and they're already kind of showing these signs of emerging. To go with Christian McCaffrey, who's just an absolute star.
Yeah.
I mean, that is bona fide star running back. Yeah, I mean, if like I said, if he can just get 5 points per game more out of this defense, it would make a huge difference.
Yeah, and this team is a team with a lot of draft capital, a lot of young talent that he could wheel and deal. Do we see maybe him trade for a stud defender this offseason? I don't know.
Sure hope so.
Maybe,
Could happen.
maybe.
And I hate to bring it up, but the fateful night in September where Sony Michel wasn't started, it had a direct impact on the draft
Yes.
order. You know, if he starts Sony, Frazier has the first pick in the
I
draft.
saw that today. It made me a little upset.
Yeah. So that shows just how big that kind of stuff could be because, you know,
But
yeah.
I'm not sure I wanted to pick one. So I'm not
Yeah, it's
sure.
true.
It's a
Yeah.
weird year.
Yeah. Well, all right. that's week 14. That's the regular season, all finished up for another year. But
Mhm.
the fun is just beginning for 4 teams. We got some playoff matchups to talk about. Probably not
Whew.
lightning round style because it's an exciting time. I love the playoffs even when I'm not in them. It's better when I
Playoffs.
am, but
I sitting here and I'm getting excited. And usually this time of year comes with great stress, and that's not happening so far, and it's kind of relieving actually.
yeah, I mean, I literally last night was just sitting normal, having a nice little normal night, just thought about losing. Just thought about it. Like, what if I actually lost though? And I got sick. I like started to feel sick. And I was like, I hate the playoffs. Just fucking god damn it.
God, you know what I want? You know what I want? I want a Mingo Tim championship, and for you guys to go at it even worse than me and you did.
Oh God!
Oh, it would happen.
It would
Oh,
literally
yeah.
be. We'd be 15 minutes into Sunday, and Tim's already like, "Well, it's over." And then,
It would just be a welp. It's over, man.
yeah, literally. Ty would go for 80 yards. Mingo's like, "I knew this was gonna happen." JJ Watt sack. Tim's just like, "Oh my God."
Oh God!
Tim
I'm
would
going
be
to-
selling his whole team mid-game while also winning
Yeah.
because that's just what he loves to do.
Oh man.
It's good. It would be pretty. It would be that Thursday night game would come in, and Tim would just message Mingo like one play would happen, and be like, "Yep, I knew this was coming."
Dude, as long as Harrison Smith doesn't have 2 interceptions to start the week
Oh
again,
yeah, that was.
I think I'll be in a much better mood on Sunday because
Yeah.
that was the tone setter in that game. That was awful.
It was one of the greatest weekends of my life. I want to run that team, man. God.
Ugh.
Well, all right. Like Dan said, we're gonna have, or like Frazier, somebody said this, that we're gonna have a new champion.
That was actually web reporter Frazier.
You're right, web reporter Frazier.
I don't know.
So eloquently said we are going to have a new champion. 100%. Lock it in. It's happening. Somebody's gonna have the belt that's never experienced the joy of winning web.
Hey,
And who the hell is it gonna be? What?
quick question. Like, what happens if there would be a tie? Like, what is the tiebreaker? Like, in our other Dynasty League, we had a tie. It was like regular season, which was wild. But, like, I was wondering, what happens if that happens in the playoffs?
Or God forbid the championship.
Yeah.
Ah.
What happens?
That is a hell of a question.
Like, do you go
I
by
don't think
points
we
scored
have-
in the regular season or rock, paper, scissors?
Here's a thought. Since we don't do any head-to-head tiebreakers in web, if you somehow manage to tie, why don't we go back to the regular season head-to-head?
Well, ESPN has something in place because they're not just going to let the team sit there.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's true.
But I
Might be-
wonder what it is.
I really don't know. I was just
Maybe
thinking
it
about
is
the
points. Maybe it's the same thing as a record tie.
It probably is, which is probably the best way to do it.
Well, hopefully that never happens because that
'Cause
sounds like a shit show.
I kind of want it this year. Or we just get a Josh Carter tie and they both get the share belts. They
Wow.
share. It's
What
like
an end to this season.
Josh gets it on weekends, Carter during the week, Josh during winter break.
Paying child support for
Yeah.
the belt.
They have to handle transportation of the belt to each other.
Yep.
And it must be done, otherwise the belt will be confiscated. Rules need to be followed.
Relocated to a new home.
Mhm.
So speaking of the belt, now that it is confirmed that Dave Wilson Batman not in the playoffs, are you satisfied with the last 2 years of your life holding the belt, or are you regretting maybe you could have done more?
I don't regret anything.
All right. I don't know. I didn't see any like champagne bottle popping pictures with the belt around your penis or anything.
You know what?
Because
You know what?
that's what I've been thinking
Just-
about doing.
Just because the Belt and I's relationship was not flaunted over the gram or the Twitter doesn't mean we didn't have a special relationship. We spent
You're right.
a lot of one-on-one time together that I didn't feel the need to post on social media.
Class act. It's an absolute class act. We got a few teams in there this year that I don't think would share the same attention.
Mingo wins it, and you're going on social media, and it's everywhere.
Maybe
Oh,
me and the
Christ.
Belt will go on one last weekend trip
There you go. Nice little romantic weekend up north.
and get away. Yeah.
Classic. All right, let's jump into these
Are
games.
we actually going to talk about these
Let's
games?
get,
Or are we
let's get into it. I'm getting pumped up. I'm also getting kind of like I want to throw up. Number 1 seed Carter, 11-3, Big 5 champion, first playoff appearance for this team, facing off against Tim, the 4 seed, first playoff appearance since 2013. Who you got?
I was too nice to Tim on this podcast, and it makes me sick.
Yeah, you
Therefore,
were very nice.
Therefore, the fact that he was able to actually listen to a podcast, and he's been telling me about how he doesn't listen to my podcasts this year, makes me upset. Therefore, I can't let him get through an entire one thinking he's going to get pure enjoyment, because he deserves a little bit of not enjoyment after skipping podcasts. Tim, you're going to choke this week. I don't care
boy.
that you made the playoffs. You're going to choke this week, and everything's going to be the same. CV all the way. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, God, Carter, he couldn't lose. He lost this week, but maybe he jumps right back in it. Tim kind of falls off the face of the earth.
Yeah, we see the change. Funtress is out. Shepard is in. This isn't a convincing lineup, but it's solid enough to where I could see Carter pulling it off. I just think Tim's got too much firepower, and he's gonna win this one by what's the under? It's the line is at -16. Tim. He wins by 20. Give me Tim.
We have had 2 4 seeds in the championship game. Kelvin against a Parker team that was 12-2, put up a 200-point game on him. And that's the kind of shit that you got to watch out for in the playoffs. You know, you got this Parker team 12-2, dominates the league. Kelvin kind of sneaks in 9-5. And yeah, I mean, anything can happen. The 1 week playoff has always been such an up in the air thing. We had your franchise in a title game, Caleb, after what was just a god awful season with Dirty Donnie at the fucking helm of it. So, yeah, but I mean, if we're looking at these numbers, Tim's got him in every category except wins, and I think Tim's team is ready. If Melvin's back and Odell's back, there's just too much firepower on this team. It's Tim.
All right, 2-1, Tim.
All right, and then obviously 2 seed Pac-5 champion, second Pac-5 championship for Josh, first playoff appearance since that 2013 Pac championship season, facing off with the hottest team in Webb, the 3 seed number 1 scoring team, the Moneymakers. What's happening here?
I want Josh to win. I want him to go make that true underdog story run, represent the Pac-5 in the title game, much as I don't want him to represent the Pac-5. But the Moneymakers are too much right now. This team is going to put up 200 points. It can't be stopped right now. The train is going to keep rolling into the championship game. Moneymakers I'm going to go by 30.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to side with you here. You know, Josh has had quite the season. Incredible year on defense. Darius Leonard, MVP. But, you know, maybe the offense figures it out. Gronk is in the lineup this week, so that's good to see. Even with all of Josh's guys in offense having some of their best weeks, I don't know if it'll be enough to beat Mingo.
Mhm.
So I'm taking the money makers.
Isn't it crazy how like you can be riding so high and then all of a sudden like if you're in Josh's position, all of a sudden you just put up 2 of your lowest scores of the year going into the playoffs, and all of a sudden you're facing the hottest team in the league in round 1, and your season might be like over
Yeah.
in a week.
You have this amazing season all year, and then all of a sudden you find yourself questioning yourself, like, was this really all real, or was it just? And now it's like you're the 4 seed and he's the 1 seed, and it's like, what's happening?
Yeah, fantasy football is a bitch.
It was a dream type of a season for Josh. I mean, absolutely nobody saw coming, not even him. He admits that, and obviously you want to root for a team like this, but my team, these last 3 weeks have been really, really something, and it is scary because when you're running this hot, you feel like the regression is going to hit you in the face. And
Yeah, I
we
mean,
kinda saw that.
You had those moments this season where it was sort of like a roller coaster ride before the angry podcast. So
Yeah, I wanted to fit this in here, and this feels like a good time. But I feel like the last time we had 2 teams go in as such big favorites in separate games was 2014, I think, when Dan and me went in as 2 just big favorites going into to go to play in the championship, and we both we know how that ended.
Yep. Yeah, see, that is exactly it. 2014 is the perfect example of it, where Frazier is 14-0, something that is the single most impressive feat that's ever happened in Webb. Might never happen again. Probably won't happen again. And let's not forget that both of those teams went into the playoffs on back-to-back 200-point weeks. Dan went into the playoffs with the highest score ever in week 14, 246.9. Frazier was right behind him in the same week. And both of those teams lost the very next week to Judy and Parker, coming off, both of them coming off a season where they picked number 1 and number 2 in the draft.
That's crazy.
I forget like how ridiculous that was, and I think that's just because my mind has just blocked those games out of my memory for my safety. And now that I finally like got over the hump, like I can now like I've been slowly like opening up my mind to just what happened in 2014. It's terrifying.
It's truly the most ridiculous thing. Brock breaks the scoring record. Dan breaks it the next week. It's like they're fighting back and forth. Like, who wants to be the best team? Like, oh my God. And then they both just out. It doesn't even matter. Neither of them wins. So that's the kind of thing that terrifies me. We saw Dan put up a 200-point game in 2016, go in as a wild card and lose that game. So I mean, anything is possible. I feel as nervous as I did for any of my other playoff games, despite the factors leading up to this game. And I mean, I hope I can do it. The team is running hot, and I feel comfortable with that. But yeah, I'm gonna pick myself, but anything can happen, man. Josh can bounce back very easily, and all of a sudden, the Cinderella story is right back on. So, yeah, well, there it is. I mean, those are your first playoff games of 2018, and if this season was any indication, we don't know anything. We have no idea what's happening here. Obviously, we said the wild card teams going in as the favorites, but Carter and Josh proved that going in as a favorite doesn't really matter this season by each winning their conferences. So we'll see, man. I am so freaking jacked up. I'm trying to decide Spencer Ware or Amari Cooper. That's literally all I think about like every second. I just can't even stand it.
You know what I made the connection on this week, but our schedule's lined up so that when the Saturday NFL games start, it's web playoffs time. So now my brain like automatically connects the two, and it gets me so pumped.
Wait, that's a real thing?
Yeah, we got 2 Saturday games this week.
Ooh, what games?
I don't remember, but we got a massive Thursday game and 2 Saturday games.
Oh yeah, Thursdays Chiefs, Chargers.
Oh, and also fun fact that I didn't realize too. This is the last Thursday night game of the year, I believe.
And we're gonna know a lot after that game. You know, like Kelsey and Keenan Allen for me. If Melvin plays, Melvin's going for Tim. I mean, there's going to be a lot of players already jumping in on Thursday night, so that's kind of terrifying.
Week 15, we got Saturday we have Texans, Jets, and Browns, Broncos. So, yeah, that's what'll start it off.
Well, yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
We only got one more pod, huh? Do we usually do end of the year one, or we just?
I think we've been leaving it at the championship pod, and then we're done.
We let it roll, and we let Mingo's year in review take it.
Yeah. So yeah, one more show, and this year it won't just be me and Brock talking back and forth about our own game.
That show was awesome.
It was.
The tension was so high. It was so awkward. It was great.
Oh my god.
God, what a choke job. Caleb not showing up to that one. I don't even remember why.
I was doing something with wood.
So rattled. He
jerking it.
Show up. He's probably doing cocaine.
I was moving the lumber. I definitely joined like halfway through.
I don't know. I think you were spiraling into depression, doing hard drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Does this sound like Mickey Mouse? Come on, give me a Waluigi.
Waluigi.
Russell.
This is just becoming a Smash podcast now.
Wow.
All right. Before this gets out of hand, let's wrap it up. Any last words heading into round one?
Let's go CV. To the
Team
ship.
CB. Caleb, who you got? Who's your team this season?
I don't know. I'm just excited to see. I'm just excited to see a new champion. I'll probably go with you, and then Carter, then Josh, and Tim would probably be the order. But like, I'm happy with any of them winning.
Yeah, that's
Seriously.
nice. That's nice. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next week for the last pot of the year, and until then, let's make it a great round one.